Hello. I should make this bigger, shouldn't I? I am extremely behind schedule, which I don't think it would be a me stream if I wasn't. Webcam's still out of focus. Nice. Hi. Ah, what's the schedule? I don't really know. We we get there when we get there. The pizza was from Stop and Shop. It was frozen. I think it was just Red Baron or whatever. I'm disgracing my ancestors by eating it. Uh, if it was not going to be 75 in here by the time I was done streaming, because I can't have the AC on when I stream, I would be wearing my new sweater, which is beautiful. Thank you, Mr. Bo Burnham, for that. It's the clock that was wrong. I have a lot of people who do not do a great job of following time. I feel like as time has gone on, I'm becoming more one of them. So, here's how this is gonna work, chat. I have written out huge amount of thoughts I have. We're gonna go down memory lane a lot here. Then we're gonna get to why exactly, and then, I'll open up questions on that. I don't know how much I'm gonna pay attention to chat during the broadcast, or during this part of it, right? So, it is what it is. Anybody who's subscribing, thank you. I don't know why you're subscribing when I'm talking about quitting. Please stop. I appreciate everyone. Y'all are always been so kind to me. So thank you. All right. I'm going all the way back, and I'll try and keep the going way back on the quicker side of things. Because some of you have probably heard it before, some of you haven't. And we'll move from there. So, when I started playing Perfect Team, it was PT20. I had played Out of the Park since about, like 17 or 16, I think. And I saw Perfect Team popped up in the second half of 19. I'm like, I'm not playing another card baseball game or whatever. I've played a bunch over the years on my phone or whatever, and I wasn't gonna do it. And then 20 came out, and it was like new, I think they got me with the sign up immediately and get a gold pack or whatever, right? And I was like, oh, all right, sure, why not? And I signed up, and I didn't really pay too much attention to it. Probably dropped a little bit of money so I could get an Ichiro, because I'm a huge Ichiro fan, and I just mirrored the base game, right? So I played defense and contact cards. And I didn't really know what I was doing, right? I played all sorts of weird things that were not good at all, and I was probably just about the average Perfect Team player at the time, or even now, right? You play what you think is cool, you play the players you liked in real life, all sorts of things like that. I didn't really know too much about baseball history. I played baseball for a long time, as a big baseball fan, but, I wouldn't have known who Tris Speaker was, probably, compared to a lot of other things, right? And, that kind of changed when I went to the forums. I've always been a forum user, which forums are something that a lot of Zoomers have never partaken in. But when I played Yu-Gi-Oh growing up, pretty much the only way to get good information was on an old forum. If any of you knew me as a very angry 12-year-old on Pojo, I am sorry. Outside of that, so I went to the forums, and there was a guy talking about, oh, I have a spreadsheet that rates all the cards. I love spreadsheets. I'd always, whenever I played, right, I tried to solve and figure out what was better and what was worse, and I told him we were in the same league at the time, actually. It was really funny coincidence there, and we were about to match up in the playoffs, and I said, hey, if I beat you, I'll buy your spreadsheet, which was so backwards. Why would I want his spreadsheet if I could beat him with this terrible team? I probably thought it was a good team at the time, but it was terrible. He had every single card in the game, a whole bunch of other stuff, right? And I did beat him. To this day, I'm kind of curious whether he threw or not to make $5 in the playoffs, but whichever way, I beat Davey G, and donated $5 to gain access to a spreadsheet. It was pretty awesome, right? People would throw all their data in every week, the people who were paying for it, and it was Davey GDA, yeah, and he would, I didn't know at the time, there was like a whole team working behind the scenes to make kind of this thing, and I loved it, right? I could finally learn, yes, it's the spreadsheet part. I gotta stop looking at chat, I'm gonna take too long. And it was awesome. The sheet was incredible. It had comparison tools and really great rankings and all sorts of awesome things. And my team got so much better from it, and I enjoyed the game a lot more because that's who I am, right? Out of my heart, I'm a competitive player. Pretty much everything I try and do. And I like winning, right? Who doesn't like winning? At the end of PT20, Davey announced he was retiring. I don't remember exactly the reason. It's been so long now. And said, hey, not making another spreadsheet, not playing the game anymore, and I'm gone. So fast forward to the next game starting a few months later, and I tried to rebuild the spreadsheet. I have no formal training in math. I have no formal training in spreadsheets. I don't know anything about data at this point, right? And I rebuilt it. In probably the most useless, broken way possible that made basically 0 sense, and was probably more harmful than helpful to the people using it in a lot of ways. It was very simplistic. It was just bat value versus, I think, FIP, right? Which is probably the most basic things you could have done before PT24. And I posted it, just threw it in roster advice. I'm like, here, this is what I'm using. If people find it helpful, cool. And it attracted just this massive amount of attention that I never expected, right? And too many people, probably with too much money, were buying cards off the sheet and doing a whole bunch of things they probably shouldn't have done. Because it wasn't great, and I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I was 18, 19 at the time? Turning 20? Something like that. And it was really bad, but what that did is it opened a lot of doors. So I was invited to a very small group of people who had previously worked on Davy's spreadsheet, who were building another sheet, right? And not only did I now have access again to a much better version of what I was doing, I was also under the wing of 1 or 2 people who really did know what they were doing and were able to sort of point me in the right directions. JDA was one of them, though. JDA told me, you gave me an introduction to Python course on the internet, and I'm like, I am never doing this. I still have never done it. It probably might have been better if I had done it back then. But nope, I was stubborn, and Skipper, a good friend of mine who walked me through very basics of Python and how to do, just the most simple print statements from collecting CSV files, right? And because also of, sort of my popularity as a very terrible card analyst, was invited into the newly formed DLL. So BFF had already been a thing of people, trying to free to play the game, and DLL was basically entirely the opposite, right? It was, we're the whales and the big guns, and we're going to beat everybody, and we're going to have our own friends list in Diamond League that's about as competitive as Perfect League, and it was. And it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the DLL League and how tough it was, and I only made it to Perfect League once that year because how hard that league was and how understaffed I was. So around this time, where I was starting to get more and more invested into the game, I went through a very rough breakup. Chat should also remember this is 2020. This is the pandemic. I had been living with my girlfriend at the time, and we ended up breaking up. And I went home from Pennsylvania, and I had nothing to do with myself whatsoever, and I was very unhappy. And I channeled that into working more and more on modeling out of the park in the spreadsheet, and how things work, right? Why things work, how they work, trying to reproduce it. And it was just a little bit after this time that DLL had started talking about starting a stream, right? Original ideas, I think, thrown around were some sort of podcast where we just talk about the game or maybe rating cards or whatever. And I got a message from a now famous bald person, Mr. DRC, who told me, hey, I want to run this. I can do this. The DRC at the time was very renowned in the Discord for being the person who collected data on everything, right? And had all sorts of data. And he goes, but I want, you to come on and be the analyst with me, right? And so we had this awesome back and forth where he would, compare cards to similar cards in the meta and talk about the data. And I would say, these are the projections, right? And this is my side of things. And, we wouldn't always agree, but most of the time we did. And we'd talk about cards. And one of the favorite things I've ever been a part of was This Week in Perfect Team with DRC. And it was just a wonderful experience, right? It was really, I think it was a lot of growth for Out of the Park as much as us as well, because, you're putting out this cards and you're making a competitive game, right? That has a leaderboard and ranking systems and tournaments. And now there are people trying to solve them, right? So around the same time we were doing this, there was Angered Unicorn doing his thing. And again, that was more like, what DRC was doing, right? Just collecting mass data on tournaments. And, what is this best card? What does that card do? Maybe this card is good if that card's good, right? And it was a great time. I think, it's probably some nostalgia, but for me, a lot of the time, PT21 was the golden age of Perfect Team, in the sense that for me personally, and I think for a lot of people, it's probably the most competitive the game has ever been, right? About halfway through the cycle, Jay Malay discovered, how to really micro, right? He was running 40 pitchers a week in Perfect League, and pseudo was a thing where you fake your starting pitcher with a batter face count, which you can't do anymore because it was so powerful. All the 2020 streamers are gone. Yeah, they're all gone. None of them would be left. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty great. And I still had no idea what I was doing, by the way, but it was better. I roughly could outline things, and I wasn't right about everything, but PT22 was coming, and I started solo streaming, right? So up until this point, I only had been guests on DRC, and I probably had been in Yuka's channel at that point as well. I started doing a few solo streams. Again, I was trying to replicate DRC's very professional style of content. Did not fit me at all. And if people remember those, they were fun, and I had some good stuff to do with it. But, I think that style of environment is not something I'm comfortable producing very well in any case. And I decided working on a much bigger project in the spreadsheet. Up until that point, kind of like I had said earlier, everything was WOBA and FIP, right? Because they were very, very simplistic. And I said, hey, what if I do more, right? Because, you could look at a bat and say, oh, this bat is this good, but what about the glove? And what about the base running and this and that? And so I decided to go fully in and try and reverse engineer war. And doing this, I built a huge group of everybody basically on the planet that I respected to come collect data and talk about the game. They did not get along at all. And then when I announced that my goal was recreating war, and I posted a demo that I had made, also did not go over well. There was a lot of backlash, if you recreate the game for people outside of the game, you're going to ruin it for most people. You're taking away a lot of our margins, because a lot of these people were also very competitive players. There was people still from PT20 who were mad that I had copied Davy's sheet in the first place, even though I don't think any of the code left at that point was the same. And It was kind of a mess. And then DRC and I kind of decided collectively that this week and This Week in Perfect Team just wasn't sustainable long term. I mean, DRC is a guy with a family, and just couldn't justify the amount of work that went into that stream because it was a ton of work. And I found myself joining one of the newer groups of the game, TBD, where it was a lot more about helping people learn how to play the game. And I, at this point, still kind of thought I knew it all, right? And looking back on it now, I had no idea what I was doing. And many people have been in and out of TBD over the past 3 years, and I would go in their voice chats a lot, right, and talk about the game. We'd be in there every Thursday night talking about the new cards as they came out. And consistently, I was wrong about either how the game worked or how the cards worked. And it was either a little bird telling me I was wrong, or it was somebody even younger than I was by quite a big margin, explaining to me things being wrong. And I was very stubborn, and most of the time it would take me a few months to come back and be like, hey, you were actually right this whole time. It was kind of a pattern that kept happening. And sort of around this time, there was kind of a change in out of the park policy. So I'll explain it a little bit for those unaware. Where in Perfect Team 21, a legit strategy was just leave your team in a lower level, only buy bats, have terrible defense and pitching, so your team doesn't beat other teams, but you get lots of achievement points, right? There was a group of us doing this in 22, and somebody caught wind of it, complained about it, and they banned most of us. Not everybody, nobody was perma-banned, but they decided it was no longer okay, and that's fine. I mean, they chose to enforce the TOS that was there that they did not enforce in previous years. No issue with it. But a lot of the people in TBD thought because of a specific member that got banned over it, was not myself, it was somebody else, that they would rather not let them rejoin the group after the case. And the little bird and I decided we didn't agree with this at all, and that we wanted to start our own Perfect Team group. And a bunch of things happened post that. There's a very famous YouTube video / stream that happened on here, talking about the bird and why the bird no longer continued to play the game. But what it did start is it started FFS. Now, if you've seen my team in Perfect Team, you know that I have the tag FFS after it. And almost nobody else does, right? And this was about the end of PT22. And we'll get to Koufax. And from there, we took a small group of people with us that we thought agreed with our vision of the game and the way it kind of should be played, right? And just kept growing it. So when I came into PT23, I had finally decided that I really didn't know what I was doing, which is something I probably could have come to the conclusion of a long, long time ago, right? And I decided I was going to start listening to people. Yes, exactly that. And I was going to there was a short list of people I have where if they speak, regardless of whether I had agreed or not, or thought that was how the game worked, I was going to change things, right? And I was going to evaluate them and ask questions and just make sure I knew what I was doing, right? And as PT23 went on, we expanded FFS a bit and created a group that really views the game in, I think, a very similar manner, right? Which is, we're here to compete and we're here to win, but at the end of the day, it's just a game, and it really isn't that big of a deal, right? And I think so many people would have so much drama and so many things over little things in the game that honestly weren't that important to the greater spectrum of what's going on, and a bunch of other stuff, right? And there's reasons why certain people we reached out to, and it really boiled down to two things. Either you did know a ton about the game, and you were willing to share what you knew, or you were somebody who really wanted to learn and were willing to listen, right? And um, there's, I think we created over the course of 23 the by far the most winning group in all the stats, and learned a lot about the game. But not only that, we became pretty great friends, and we did things outside of the game, and work together to just have fun and enjoy the ride, right? And that, for me, was by far the most happy I've ever been playing Perfect Team, right? Was working with a group of very loud, very passionate people that did understand at the end of it, it doesn't really matter. We're just trying to have fun, right? And so going from there into PT24, right? At this point, right, you can agree or disagree with some of the things I'm about to say, but to me, this is by far the most success I've ever had streaming. Be it here, or with Laptop Hound, or with Charles on Warbot, or any other place I appear. I'm having a great time, and people also seem to be enjoying it, right? At this point, using kind of the philosophy I picked going into PT23, which is that, no, I really didn't know anything, and I was going to learn and get better. The spreadsheet became actually a really great tool. I think, it's at the point where I did in Excel, what a lot of people did in either Excel or Python or whatever, right? Some better languages. And, I would still say of the kind of competent models, mine is at the bottom of the barrel, but it's still actually, it works and it's useful now, right? Which is something up until 23 was certainly not the case. And I finally kind of felt at home, right? There's a lot of people over the years have come and gone in PT. Some very loud people, some very passionate people, and I feel like PT23 had a much more kind and forgiving group than previous years, at least public facing. And I thought it was great. And at the end of PT23, I was kind of already like, things are coming together a little bit, right? Like, I'm enjoying the gameplay pattern, which is something I really hadn't in the past. I liked, making the content, and the spreadsheet to me was more fun than the game. I picked my window to try and win, and I came second in perfect, and I never actually made it, but that was fine, right? I wasn't putting a ton of money into the game or anything, and I was good with it, right? And a lot of things were going on outside of the game too. Things that a lot of people could probably tell if they went back and watched older streams versus newer streams, right? Where I've grown and changed a lot as a person. And there's a lot going on right now, and I'm just having more fun doing life rather than trying to get through it. So, now we come to what everybody in chat's anticipating, which is the why am I leaving, right? I actually do like it, which is quite fun. Why now, right? Because, like I just said, things are going well. I think this is probably the best it's ever been. And I'm feeling it, right? Like, I was really enjoying 23 and the people surrounding it. And a bunch of other that. And kind of the answer at this point, I think I care too much about the game to keep playing it like this, right? And I'll explain why. I've had a ton of people message me since I announced this on Thursday that I was done, right? And there's people like, I don't believe you. And there's people like, why? Well, if you're done, then just leave, right? Why do you need to talk about it? And I have some opinions, right? It has nothing to do with the LEs. It doesn't. I'm sorry. I know people really care one way or the other about those cards. My issue is not at all with the fact those cards are limited edition. I really don't care, actually. I don't care. And there's a lot going into it. So let's talk about it. The most important thing to me when I play Perfect Team is the content. Okay? I care about the ratings on the cards. I know that's crazy. If anybody has ever heard me talk, that's such a baffling opinion that I would say that. I love the cards. The cards are what makes the game fun, because for me, then I can, work around work around the cards and build fun teams and play different formats and try and win league, and that's everything to me. So some of the things I've noticed over PT24 so far is some of the things I think about cards are clearly not the way everybody thinks about cards. So ratings are like an actual science. They're not a mystery. When a card says 80 power, you should be able to tell in what specific format how often the card hits X amount of home runs in a sample. There is no mystery. This is a game with numbers. There is no player variance. All you have is insufficient data. It is very, very simple. And repeatedly, it seems like a lot of the people making sort of these things maybe misunderstand that or have a varying opinion about what things do compared to what they're actually doing. Which leads me kind of to another point. If I can tell you what a card is going to do in a certain format before the card has ever played the certain format, the people making the cards can do that to a far higher level of success than I can. They have the actual game at their disposal. Like, they can do every single thing they want to, and they should not be a guessing game. Like, as much as I can do data and tell you how cards work, they should be able to do it exactly. And it's really not hard for me or for them or for anyone to tell what are good or bad cards if you understand baseball and data and video games and what goes into these things, right? It really shouldn't be, right? You should be able to tell to almost an exact amount what a card does in a certain scenario. And because of this, I'd like to see that not every card that comes out is game-breaking or completely useless. And that seems to be a lot of the pattern so far. You can absolutely have different cards be competitive in either different eras or even in the same era at the same position at the same time, right? I'll reuse an example I used Thursday, where just because you have Chase Utley says he's a perfect card does not mean he's competitive with Jackie Robinson, right? He's not even comparable. And you could make another second baseman that competes with Jackie Robinson that has a slightly different shape, and you actually should be able to do that, right? Because you have the game in your lap and you're able to recreate things, right? And kind of leading into a different point as well, where it's like, it seems like the structure of things does not matter at the moment, where any given week, any card from any given week can be overthrown, outclassed, whatever. And again, because of the things I've just stated, right, you should certainly be able to plan out reasonable progression, right? Where if I'm invest in something like a Jackie Robinson, which is a very expensive investment, I am not panicking every Thursday or now every single day that there's a new card coming out that's better. Because that leads to people not be able to make safe and reasonable investments in what should be good cards, right? Because if you can't reasonably invest, the only people that can like actually just continue to play the game cycle in this pattern would be the people who do not care how much money they play, right? If there is no safety limits or anything like that. And I'm not saying the game is impossible to free to play, far from it. I saw somebody who I think was in here earlier made a comment about free-to-play players complaining about the LE cards. And they will probably at some point lose a league to a free-to-play player, and it'll happen. It's more that I think this gameplay pattern of content is not something I'm interested in playing compared to the previous years and similar patterns we saw over more of 22 and 21 and how things were planned out there. Some other examples of things not content related I have issues with are communication. There is a Discord server with, like, I think multiples of thousands of people in it that are trying to play this game that have no idea what's going on. Live card update, the only feedback we've gotten is that they don't use zips. Does not explain anything that was addressed in the issues with the live card update. The BABIP issues, we told them there were issues. We could have told them there were issues in day one of the open beta. It took about a month and a week, maybe 5 weeks, to hear that they were making a fix the next week. PT Live rewards, as soon as those were published, we told them they were so low, they were inconsequential. The only feedback we heard on that is they're staying the same. Quick tournament changes have just been, again, told there's no quick tournament changes coming. They're staying the same. The week of LEs, we didn't know was the week of LEs till the week was almost over. We were guessing, why are there so many LEs, right? You know, comparing this to similar games. I mean, I'm talking, there's a game I play. Some people might know of Mega Crit, right? Who, you know, two-man dev studio was putting out back in the day at least monthly content about, you know, what they're doing, why they're doing it, what they're working on, what issues the community has, addressing them. These kind of things are, I think, very, very common in the gaming world and would improve every experience with Out of the Park massively. Even from large companies like Bungie, which does a weekly huge manifesto, to something smaller, even like a Marvel Snap. People who are playing your game and paying a lot of money on your game really have the right to know what's going on. And not literally just, you know, oh, all of a sudden all my data is different. Well, why is that, right? And even when things are changed, explain why you're changing it in this specific way, and give us actual numbers. The magic doesn't disappear behind the hood. I think you could literally replace card ratings with player hits home run X% of time in this format, and it still wouldn't change how most people play the game, right? And I think there's so many things built into Out of the Park that are almost just kind of designed to keep people from 100% solving the game, and all it's really done is slow a few people down and make the game a lot less accessible for the casual player. And kind of building off of what I've said too, you know, I enjoy playing games that I can compete in, right? I said that earlier, but like, for me to have fun in the game, I want to play it. I want to be trying to win, right? And there's very different areas in PT where you can try and win, right? The issue is I'm actually just not really having fun anymore in any of them. In tournaments, this was my first year stepping huge into tournaments, right? And the tournament edition cards are not good. There's literal handful of them that are. And at this point, they not only have been outclassed, most of them already, or we're sitting at the point where every card got added into the mission, which was almost the same as no cards getting added into a mission. And there's one or two of those missions that I think might actually be challenging, but unless you're a tournament card in that mission, now you have no value, right? In the preview of Tournament Batch 2, did not seem to be at a power level that Tournament Batch 2 cards should be, where they're coming out and they're still mostly useless. And that's, you know, that means tournaments now aren't really rewarding. So what about PT Live? Well, we talked about it earlier. I make more money playing challenge mode every 72 hours than I do from PT Live. And I have a good PT Live team. Like, I was 120th last week, right? And I still made less money over my best 3 days than I would have playing challenge mode. Why spend, I don't know how many months developing this and working on this project if you're going to make it completely pointless to play? You could up the rewards by 5 times the amount you're giving out tomorrow, and then maybe it would be worth playing it. Like, there's no point for it, right? Like, if you spent all this time doing it, just make it, like, it doesn't actually hurt you to give out points. Or if you'd rather give out packs to put more cards in the economy, do that, right? Give me, a pack every other day for playing or every day for playing, right? League rewards, I've been talking about this forever, and there's finally very minute changes to this. There is, like, no incentive to play League unless I am winning Perfect League. I don't make anything from it. I don't get anything out of it. When I play something like another Come2Us baseball game, if I play 9 innings general managers, probably the closest baseball game to Out of the Park on the market, and I go play a season of League play, which is different than Out of the Park because it only requires you to play it, at the end of it, I get a massive amount of currency and some alternate rewards that help me actually feel like, wow, that was worth my time sitting down and working on. And right now, the only thing worth doing in League play, which is kind of what the game appears to be centered around, maybe I'm wrong, is getting a lottery ticket in the Diamond playoffs and hoping you luck into Perfect League, and then doing the same thing in Perfect League and trying to win Perfect League, right? And that doesn't mean it's not fun, but if that's not rewarding, well, what is rewarding? Is it the PTCS, where I spent an entire month planning tournaments and playing different tournaments, trying to qualify for as many as possible, only to get basically completely useless rewards outside of the final reward? Which on Thursday, we already dropped a card that's probably a better left fielder. So now if I don't take my championship 10 of Yastrzemski and spend an entire month training it in the center field, it's useless? Like, I don't know. So why would I compete in the game if there's no area of the game that rewards me for competing right now, right? There isn't. So it just kind of boils down to, I don't enjoy the current pattern of play, and I do not enjoy specifically the current pattern of play being unstable and random. And now I don't even have to worry about it changing just every Thursday. I have to worry about it literally changing every single day. Like today on a Saturday afternoon when they drop by a mile the best pitcher in the game, right? And it is a 10 of Sandy Koufax that basically looks like they put a real PTCS reward in a pack. Not interested. So, just a few things really quick, because we're almost out of time here. What it would take for me to come back: competitive structure and balance. I don't actually think I'm asking for anything like impossible or too hard or anything completely unreasonable at all. Balance your cards, balance your rewards, and that's it. It's really simple. You could start streaming. I'll read into you at 9. Balance it. I'll come back and check out PT25, but if things are the same in PT25, I'm not gonna keep playing. Right? I'll play for a week and see what it looks like, and that's about it. When things change around the game, or there are controversial topics, or the Discord wants an answer on something, it should not be this weird game of telephone where we don't really ever get a direct answer, or there's still no reasoning on how anything is structured at all, right? Communicate with your giant Discord of very passionate players that a lot of dev teams would be extremely thrilled to have a Discord like this Discord. And, there's Marvel Snap people, the people making the changes on the cards in real time, opening threads in their Discord to discuss balance changes, or posting on Twitter when there is something people don't like about, why there's a change and why they're thinking this way. And, if you guys don't like it, maybe we revisit it, right? And including the under the table stuff. There's been a lot of under the table little tweaks over the years. If something like that changes, it really should be a public thing with numbers and why. It's not really a big deal if there's a bug in your code. Just fix your code and tell us you fixed it. That's another reason why the PT live spec thing is so bizarre to me. It's very obvious there's a bug. Either you're fixing the bug or you're not. And that is a 1,000,000-point industry. There are thousands of actual dollars being put into those points. There is no reason why it's been 20 days since that's happened, and somebody like me could tell it was wrong, and there has been zero response for why. Not acceptable. Under any video game I would play would I let people get away with that. So... and then lastly, you gotta reward people for winning in your game. The structure of, everything competitive right now is not rewarding. There is nothing worth your time. And as much as I would have loved to retire this year after putting 8 inches of meaningless plastic on my desk because it's what I've wanted for the past 4 years, I'm not sticking around for it. I'm done. So, yeah, that's about it. There's a few final notes. I will clarify something I had said before. I will actually continue streaming the podcasts where I am interviewing people from the community. It will have even less of a focus on the actual game than it did before. But I have 3 ones lined up. Somebody finally got back to me after months of me asking. And I'm at least going to get through those 3 before I'm done. So over the next few weeks, we're going to see JDA, Charles, and Snaggle J come on this channel and talk about life a lot more outside of the game than inside the game. And we'll work on those things as well. And then, if you haven't heard me talk about this previously, nothing really changes in my Discord. I know the Discord is a place a lot of people use to talk about PT, and we're going to keep it exactly almost how it is. I may try streaming alternate games. It may be random bizarre games with some of the guys in FFS or other friends. It may be Marvel Snap. I don't really know. And then the spreadsheet will be coming out hopefully over the next 2 weeks. I'm planning on gold tournaments and league. It will be the final spreadsheet I drop in the foreseeable future. I think that's all the notes I have. Oh, also, feel free to keep DMing me about the game as well. Just don't do I play X player on my roster or Y player at second base? If you want to ask me about sliders, like how the greater game works, anything like that, I would love to keep talking to you guys about it. Because I know a lot of you are hungry for knowledge. Stratico, I will try. I'm probably going to have to work with somebody with XL19 to make sure that happens. Charles, you probably should just play Jose Lima at this point. So I'm going to end this with a bunch of thank yous. Again, I talked earlier about how, the group that me and a bird and 2 other people started. Adolfo, if you would like to help me, I would appreciate it. I know you sent me some fixes before. But that group of people in FFS is more of my friends and family than anything else now. And a lot of you guys too, people are in my DMs or Discord or talk with me. Like, I love talking with you guys as well. And thank you to my parents for supporting me. But I'm just going to go through a list of names really quick. People that deserve to be shouted out. If this is the end for me with Perfect Team. So, in no particular order, we're going to go thank you to Snailman, Mike ABC, RDT24, Sergeant Mushroom, Pidge, Chimera, Snaggle J, aka Chris Jardine, Christophorus, Aster, Durden, Charles, Teddy O, Eucharin, Dishnet34, Old and Slow, Vulcan, Out of the Park Meme Lord, Crash, Ba, Gabagoo Luigi, Ludwig, Skipper, Hamlet, and there's so many more that I'm not going to have time to go through everybody, but I really appreciate each and every one of you. If you've ever been in my messages talking about the game or more or anything, thank you for what you've done. Thanks to my parents as well. Yeah, so I was planning on having time for questions. I actually did not think this would go as long as it did. We have no time for questions. We're time out all these people. That would take me too long. If some mod wants to do it, I don't even know who's in here at this point. Have fun. I'll take like 2 minutes of questions and then we'll raid into Yuka. All right. That's about it. So, spoken like a true politician. I always wanted to be a politician when I was a kid, and then I learned what like it actually involved, and I made the right decision to not do that. Not talking about that Green Cane. I've seen you bring that up. If people know, they know. I'm not here to start a fight with anybody or burn any bridges. I appreciate all the people at Out of the Park who've put all this time into this game. You've given me some of the best times of my life enjoying this game, and a lot of people I've made friends with in real life because of you guys, so thank you. What are you most hyped to play with your new time? I haven't even thought about it yet. I got 2 more spreadsheets to put out in the next 2 weeks. The meaning of life is finding the meaning of life, which is an answer I hate, but it is a thing a lot of philosophers agree on. Why did I snub you? Oh, Mr. Audit, you're also extremely welcome to be podcast guest number 4. I can explain why that didn't happen when it happened. I really wish Koshrefi. There isn't one. I would be okay with that. I'm not really a Diablo fan. I know chat keeps bringing it up. I know. I'm a Path of Exile player. To me, Diablo 4 is very watered down Path of Exile, and that's a hot take. But I like I've said, I'm a very competitive guy. That's what I've always done. And if I'm gonna play an ARPG, I would I'll play Path of Exile probably. Sergeant Mushroom says, if I could do it all again, would I do anything differently? Absolutely not. I have one regret in my life, and it's when I visited my girlfriend in college, and I bought a bunch of people sushi for dinner. I'd buy everybody sushi but one guy. That's the only thing I would change in my entire life. I'm nothing but petty. I'm about as petty as you can get. Buy order for my Delahanty. No, Delahanty's gonna rot on my team for the rest of the cycle. So, Kaminity's got quick sold, so I could buy a bunch of funny looking cards to throw on my team. That's about it. Not answering that one. The quick sell him on stream. I thought about it. If I had like pulled the Koufax today, it was getting sold on stream. Wayne Gross pitching? No, I would probably get banned for that at this point. So we're not gonna do it. All right, we're gonna raid Yuka. I appreciate everybody for being here. And that's about it. So again, I'll be in Discord. I'll post an announcement, whatever, for anybody who doesn't watch the stream. I'll probably also throw this up on YouTube if you missed some of it. That way you don't have to watch Twitch ads. And again, podcasts are continuing, and there will be 2 more spreadsheets coming out in the next 2 or 3 weeks. I'm gonna commit to it. It will be hard. Ghost ship kidneys means auto tech. If I pull a free Dave Brown, I'm gonna ask for the trophy. I'm gonna pay for the trophy or whatever you have to do to get the trophy, and then I'm gonna burn it in my fire pit in the backyard on stream. I don't care about the environment. And with that note, let's go raid Yuka. Everyone go through Yuka some love. Yuka's been a huge friend of the stream for such a long time, and out of the stream too. So appreciate y'all. And with that, goodbye.